Doesn't matter whether you're a Yankee fan or not, whether you love baseball or not, you're going to appreciate our next guest because he wrote about an incredibly powerful subject. He is Marty Appel. He is the author of a book called Munson, The Life and Death of a Yankee Captain, a story all about the great Thurman Munson. And as I told you, a lifelong Yankee fan. My good friend and our president over at Channel 13, our partner, Neil Shapiro, big Yankee fan, right?
Yes.
He'll appreciate this, but so will others. Again, I said you don't have to be a Yankee fan to appreciate Munson. What was he all about, and why is it so tragic? At 32, he died in that plane crash.
He was the first Yankee captain, actually, since Lou Gehrig, who died at age 37. Something about that position, maybe. But Gehrig had died in 41. Joe McCarthy, as manager, said there'll never be another Yankee captain. The position dies now with Lou. And then in the mid-70s, George Steinbrenner said, you know, we should consider having a captain. And I was the only guy in the room that remembered the Joe McCarthy thing. So,
by the way, I did a disservice to you before you go on with your story. Tell folks how you know this stuff.
Right. I was the Yankee PR director all throughout Thurman's career.
1968 you started?
I started in 68, which was the year he was drafted. My first job was answering Mickey Mantle's fan mail.
So
I grew up in the Yankee organization. And now I'm the PR director in my 20s, and I say, you know, Joe McCarthy said the position is retired with Lou Gehrig. And Mr. Steinbrenner, to his everlasting credit, says, well, if Joe McCarthy knew Thurman Munson, he'd know this is the right guy in the right time.
Why was he the right guy to be the captain?
Because he was a leader. If the catcher is kind of a take-charge guy, it's a natural fit. He's facing everybody else. He's kind of commanding the action. He's coddling the pitching staff. And oh, he was so good with the pitching staff. He really could treat them each psychologically and intellectually, individually. So Munson becomes the captain in '76, wins the MVP award, and leads the Yankees back to the World Series after 12 dismal seasons.
Marty, some of the most powerful aspects of the book about Thurman Munson. And do yourself a favor, go out and get it. The publisher is?
Doubleday.
Doubleday.
Great baseball name, right?
Absolutely, Abner Doubleday. Here we go. His childhood. Forget about on the field right now. His childhood, painful in a lot of ways. What was the deal with Thurman Munson's father?
Well, his father was the product of being raised in an orphanage, and who can attribute what he became to that? But the dysfunctional family goes back at least 2 generations. Thurman was the youngest of 4. The 3 siblings leave home.
What are we looking at there, Marty?
We're looking at Dwayne, his older brother, and Thurman is the younger.
Got it, sorry.
And there were 2 older sisters as well. And they all leave home as soon as they're finished with high school, leaving Thurman alone in this very challenging environment. It was a loveless home, no support at all his athletic achievements in high school.
His old man wasn't there for him?
Wasn't there for him. He was a long-distance truck driver, gone all week. Then he'd come back Friday night and start walloping the kids for misbehaving.
So the kid's playing great ball. Does he go there and even if he doesn't see the game, does he tell him he's a good ball player?
He doesn't really. He doesn't coddle him. He doesn't compliment him. In fact, he's jealous of him because he thinks he's a better ball player and he's stuck driving a truck all week and should have been.
He was angry at the kid.
He was angry, and it never went away. He was always jealous of Thurman's success.
So it's so crazy here. Thurman Munson has this incredible playing career on the field and is the captain. We'll talk about Reggie Jackson, his fire relationship with Reggie and stuff with Billy Martin. But what strikes me is on August 2nd, 1979, how does Thurman die? And then we'll bring the father back into it.
Thurman had become a great family man in his own right, as an adult. Sort of, you know, he was determined he was going to break that cycle.
He was going to be the father he never had.
Exactly. And to accomplish it, in part, he learned to fly so that he could go home after ball games to Canton, Ohio, and be with his family
and
for
Diana
breakfast.
was with those kids.
Yes. And people didn't know this. The players are driving home to Bergen County or Westchester County.
He's flying.
And he's flying out of Teterboro to go to Canton. By '79, he's moved up to a jet. It's his 3rd plane. It was too much plane for him. My first reaction back then, I remember, was usually if you get a plane like this, you get a pilot with it.
Right. Not Thurman.
Not Thurman. He did it himself, and he messed up. There were pilot errors, serious pilot error made on that fateful Thursday in August of '79. But his last actions were heroic in a sense because there were 2 passengers with him, friends, pilots themselves, and he took that plane down in a field and all three of them survived that crash landing. And had they not hit a tree stump and caused Thurman's paralysis, they all would have walked away from that plane. But as it happened, the plane burst into flames. The other two guys had to flee, leaving Thurman behind. A terrible end for Thurman.
What was the reaction on the part of the Yankee family?
This was as difficult a day as Yankee fans, Yankee management, even media, who we didn't talk to very often. It was as tough a day as baseball history had ever put on a franchise, let alone this hollowed, storied franchise that was they were the defending world champions, and
right.
He was the captain. There were two games of particular note right after. I mean, there was the Friday night game the next day, where people remember misty rain and tears and Reggie Jackson crying in right field, and the empty home plate ceremonially, sort of like the riderless horse at the Kennedy funeral, John Kennedy. And then 3 days later, after the funeral, the heroic Bobby Mercer game, when he drives in all 5 runs for Thurman.
They were close.
They were close, and Bobby had just rejoined the team after 5 years in exile.
What was happening with the short version, the tension between Reggie Jackson, superstar, comes in, the article in which magazine?
Sport.
The drink, the straw stirs the drink, you know? There's Thurman Munson, team guy. I don't want to make it overly simplistic, but he was about the team. It was not about stats. He was not about posing after he hit a home run. It was the opposite, right?
Right.
What was the deal between the two of them? Oil and water?
It was a clash of egos, but Thurman's wasn't an ego that he had to stand on the top of a tallest building and say, "I'm the greatest."
Right.
He
Reggie
just wanted to be
wanted the
respected.
chocolate bar called Reggie. Did Thurman want it?
No, Thurman could care less, but he didn't want to be disrespected.
That's right.
And when Reggie came in and did this, Thurman was the biggest advocate for getting Reggie. He wanted his bat behind him in the lineup. But Reggie comes, and no sooner is he there than in spring training of '79, he does this stupid interview in Sport magazine that says, "I'm the straw that stirs the drink.
I'm the guy."
Thurman can only stir it bad. He even goes so far as to name Thurman. So suddenly, Thurman's got 23 new best friends.
Yes.
Everybody on the team gravitated
Did
towards
Reggie
him.
understand why it was so stupid what he did and how he disrespected Thurman Munson?
He probably did, but the only thing he ever said was he was misquoted, and he didn't expect that those statements would be used in the story.
Marty, let me do this because you know the media business better than I do. We never do the proper service to a book like this. The book is called Munson, The Life and Death of a Yankee Captain. Minute left. What's the legacy that Thurman Munson leaves?
He's old school. I mean, it wasn't that many years ago, but yet he played the game hard and true. He respected the game. He didn't talk to the media, but the fans saw around that, and they saw the way he played the game, and they loved him.
We still love him, right?
Yeah, they still love him. His
When his
picture
wife
goes up on the scoreboard, they go crazy.
They go crazy. I remember the Old Timers Day the other day, recently. Diana Munson, his wife, came out with Bobby Mercer's wife.
Yes.
They threw the first pitch out.
Yeah.
Out of respect, I promised I'd do this. I hate to end on a negative. At his funeral, tragic death, his father. Go ahead.
The father, who the siblings didn't even know if he was dead or alive, he shows up from Arizona at the funeral, goes to the cemetery, walks up to the burial site, and says, "You thought you were too big for this world, huh? Well, look who's still standing, you SOB."
Well, it's just one of the many stories in this very powerful book. Do yourself a favor, go out and read it. And Marty, I want to thank you for all that you've done over these years. Whether you're a Yankee fan like me or not, you're terrific. Thank you, Marty.
Thank
I learned
you,
a lot.
Steve. I
Great
really
book.
appreciate it.
That was a lot of fun.